Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So, it seems we haven't been collectively learning lessons since the Brexit referendum. The major Leave campaigns broke laws then, and the major campaign is still being allowed to do so today. All the more perplexing as the Brexit Party are the main threat to Conservative seats, so the fact that the Conservative government aren't going after them isn't even explained by simple corruption. Both the Brexit Party and the leader himself have shown a cavalier attitude towards the funding of their activities, so today I'd like to talk a little bit about both. So first of all, there is the little matter of the undeclared income for Nigel Farage. Now, there are already far too much opportunities for politicians to take bribes, but the least measures that Parliament's put into place is at least require them to declare most of their income. Really should be all of their income, I think. And when deciding how much of a payment or a gift or a donation is enough to need declaring, it's always going to be a discussion point. But I think everyone would agree that £500,000 in a single year definitely meets that threshold. Aaron Banks is the guy who pumped in millions of pounds, absolutely millions of pounds, into the Leave campaign illegally from a source outside the UK. What is still not known is exactly where it came from, but every time more evidence emerges, it always points to Russia, of course. But with the Conservative government suppressing investigations by the National Crime Agency and the Metropolitan Police in an effort to protect their own implicated MPs, including the guy who is favourite to become Prime Minister soon, well, it's taking far too long to get to the bottom of it. And it was Banks that gave Nigel Farage £450,000 in a single year to pay for his lavish lifestyle. Farage claims that he didn't need to declare it because he was retiring from politics. Well, not only is that a laughable claim, but it's not even true. He hadn't retired. Just because he stopped going to the European Parliament, he was still an MEP. He didn't resign from that. And the fact that he wasn't going to the European Parliament is nothing new anyway. He tends not to do that. He is a piss poor MEP. He hardly ever turns up to anything. But he was an MEP. He was drawing his salary and therefore subject to those rules. And he still needs to declare income. He also said that the money was to be used to launch a TV career in the States. Apart from anything else, and that's irrelevant, what the money's been used for is utterly irrelevant. But it does beg the question as to why then was it spent on an extravagant lifestyle based in the UK? You know, and it's because that's the thing, it's been spent. The money has been spent. It's not sat in a treasure chest somewhere with California or bust written on it. You know, so it's not even, the other thing is, it's not like there would have been any penalties either. It's not like, oh, you're getting all this money. Oh, we're not going to pay you as much as an MEP. No, you're allowed to be very wealthy and earn a lot of money and still be an MP. You're a citizen. That's fine. There were no penalties whatsoever. All he had to do was declare it. That's fine. That's okay. It's on the register. So the only reason for not declaring income is the same reason for anyone not wanting to declare income. It's to hide the fact that you've got it, or at least the source of it. Remember that Nigel Farage likes to play the part of the ordinary working bloke in the pub, and needing hundreds of thousands of pounds a year to fund your lifestyle doesn't really fit with that image, does it? In addition, the source of the money will be of interest to some. But he was rumbled, as I would have thought was inevitable. I mean, how do you hide spending that amount of money? And once journalists know that you're getting it from somewhere, it is only a matter of time before they sniff out where it's been coming from. The EU's disciplinary team is recommending a very tough penalty for this, though it's not theirs to apply, so it hasn't been applied yet. But also to refer to him to the EU's anti-fraud office and share findings with the UK's National Crime Agency, who are, of course, investigating Aaron Banks as well, the source of this money, or at least the guy who muled the money along from wherever the real source is. Bear in mind that just because Farage's money came from Banks, that's not the end of it. We don't know that it was Banks's money. We just know that he's the one who gave it to Farage. We know that the Leave.eu money wasn't Banks's money, so why should this be? And then there's the issue of the Brexit Party funding as it formed. Nigel Farage tried to give the impression that it's a grassroots movement where his party was funded by ordinary working people just chipping in £25 here and there. That's not the case. The whole concept fell down early when he was claiming that he'd received more donations in a particular day on his website than there were visitors to that website on that day. The donations were also being made via PayPal, where tracing the origin is tricky to say the least. Donations are not permitted to come from outside the country above a certain amount. Now, we don't make too many efforts to make sure that politics can't be bought, but we at least try and make sure it's not being bought from sources outside the country. The Electoral Commission visited their offices in May, and if you were only listening to Farage, you'd think that actually they went in there and they were fine with their systems for verifying donations. But the fact is that that was not the case. They were not at all. In fact, it's hardly possible for them to prove that any of their donations are legitimate. In a climate of fears that Russia has been bankrolling groups that are attacking the EU from inside, the idea that you have an anti-EU party using exclusively a system, because remember, other political parties use PayPal as well as other systems, they only use that system. So they're only using a system where it's difficult, if not impossible, to trace those donations. In a climate like that, it's impossible not to have the very deepest suspicions. You can't discount them. And when it comes to donations below £500, legally, they don't actually have to be declared. So the Russian state could be paying a whole batch of many, many payments of £499.99, and it would all be legal above board and yet still represent Putin, or at least the Russian state, funding an act that will harm his European opponents and by extension the democratic Western world. Which is why the Brexit Party have actually been quite stupid in the way they've done this. If you'd have just told Putin, do you know what, just give me loads and loads of 499 quids, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. It'll all be suspicious, the newspapers will go on about it, nothing they can do because it'll all be legal. And after a review, the Electoral Commission said that the Brexit Party systems opened it up to, and they quote, a high and ongoing risk of impermissible donations. The bottom line is that it's a party's legal duty to ensure that the donations are valid. It's not a case of, oh, well, you can't prove that they're not. That's not how it works. You know, if you can't prove that it came from within the country, then it can't be accepted and must be returned. But the bottom line is that they haven't been able to prove that they're valid, but I think they've returned like a sum total of £1,000. I almost had to laugh when the Brexit Party said that they would, of course, they're very pleased with the recommendations from the Electoral Commission, and of course we will implement them in full, just as soon as it's practicable and possible. Not really sure that's good enough. I mean, these are things that are supposed to be in place right now. These are not like extra things they were told to do. This is the law. It's a bit like being released from a police station or from prison, or is it something like that? I say, yeah, I'll absolutely go to being a law-abiding citizen as soon as it's practicable to do so. Apart from anything else, if the donations really are from outside the UK, as a lot of people seem fairly sure it is, it'll never be possible to implement, will it now? Doesn't really give them what they're going to do in a few months' time. So, oh, sorry, it hasn't been possible yet. And what's going to happen? They'll be fined. They'll be found guilty again and fined. And they'll go, oh, that's fine. I'll just ask President Putin for a bit of money to pay the fine. And also, let's look at this idea that he has such support in the country that small individual donations would have come flooding in. Sure, lots of people have voted for the Brexit Party in the European elections, and they did well in Peterborough as well. But that's getting people to walk down the end of your road and put a tick in a box. Are there really that many people who'd put their hard-earned cash into the pot? When you consider the embarrassment of his sad, pathetic Brexit bus ride earlier this year, you'd say not. And the Brexit Party, if it really were a grassroots party, why aren't there candidates, ordinary people? They are all very wealthy elites. I mean, when you compare them to a proper grassroots party like Labour, who field candidates from all walks of life, the Brexit Party looks like a gathering of Lord Snooty's closest chums. Why doesn't it even have officers around the country either, if it has such active supporters across the country? But I think the take home from this is that the Brexit Party, they've been done because they could have got all their money legally from Russia. What's really needed is a change in mindset in terms of the bar that is set. We need to be able to verify the source of all donations. It is no problem at all for a State Department to flood a party if they're taking online donations with as many small donations as it likes. That's easy. A law is not enforced. It's no law at all. And if we're going to say that extra national payments are not allowed, that we shouldn't have political donations being made from outside of the country, then we have to face up to modern systems of getting around these and tighten those rules up. If it makes it more difficult to accept small payments, then so be it, but I don't think it does. If people have to supply their names and addresses for even small online payments, then so be it. That shouldn't be a big deal. We can't keep allowing these assaults to continue on what's left of our democracy. The damage it causes is too severe. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button, subscribe for further content. Until next time, I'll see you later.